The bombs fell like rain from the dark sky. Captain Park stood at the command center and watched the screens flash red. Another wall had fallen. Another 100 soldiers were dead. The Empire was winning, and there was nothing she could do to stop it. 3 years. For 3 long years, humanity had fought against the alien invaders. They came from a distant star system with ships that blocked out the sun. Their weapons turned cities into dust. Their soldiers stood 3 meters tall with scaled skin and armor that bullets could not pierce. They had conquered 47 worlds before they found Earth. Humans were just another species to crush under their boots. Was 34 years old. She had black hair cut short and eyes that never showed fear, even when fear was all she felt inside. Before the war, she had been a teacher. She taught history to young children and told them stories about human courage. Now she taught soldiers how to die fighting. The base under the Antarctic ice was humanity's last hope. 10,000 people lived in the frozen tunnels. Half were soldiers. The other half were children, old people, and the families who had nowhere else to go, had promised to protect them all. That promise was becoming harder to keep. Lieutenant ran into the command center. His face was covered in dust and blood. He was a big man with broad shoulders and kind eyes that had seen too much death. "Captain, the eastern tunnels are gone," he said. His voice was tired. "They're using plasma drills. Our walls mean nothing to them." Looked at the map on her screen. Red dots showed enemy positions. They were everywhere. Blue dots showed her own forces. There were so few blue dots left. "How long until they reach the civilian section?" she asked. Checked his tablet. 2 hours, maybe less. 2 hours. 2 hours to save 10,000 lives. Had made impossible choices before. She had ordered men to die so others could live. She had watched friends burn in the fire of alien weapons. But this choice was different. This choice would decide if humanity survived at all. "Begin evacuation through the southern tunnels," she ordered. "Women and children first, then the elderly, then anyone who cannot fight." "And the soldiers?" asked. "The soldiers stay. We hold the line until the last civilian is safe." Nodded. He had known her for 5 years. He trusted her more than anyone in the world, but even he could see the truth in her eyes. They both knew the soldiers would not survive this day. The evacuation began. Mothers carried crying babies through dark tunnels. Old men helped each other walk on tired legs. Children held hands and tried to be brave. Watched them go and felt her heart break into 1,000 pieces. Then the screens changed. A new signal appeared. Someone was trying to communicate with the base. "Captain," a technician said, "we're receiving a transmission. It's coming from the flagship." The main screen flickered. A face appeared. It was Commander. Had seen images of commanders before. They were all big and strong and full of pride, but with something else. He was a monster among monsters. His skin was covered in scars from 100 battles. His eyes were yellow like a snake's, and they held no mercy. On his chest, he wore medals made from the bones of the species he had conquered. "Humans," said, his voice was deep and cold. "Your fight is over. Your ships are destroyed. Your armies are broken. You hide in the ice like insects, but we will find you. We will always find you." Stepped forward so the camera could see her face. "What do you want?" Smiled. It was not a friendly smile. "I want your surrender. Send your commander to my ship. Sign the Treaty of Submission. Your species will be allowed to live as servants of the Empire. You will work in our mines. You will build our cities. You will exist because we allow you to exist." "And if we refuse?" asked. "Then we will kill every last human, man, woman, and child. We will burn your planet until nothing grows. We will erase your species from the universe as if you never existed. The choice is yours." The screen went dark. The command center was silent. Every person looked at. They were waiting for her to say something, to give them hope, to tell them they could still win. But had no hope to give. She had seen the numbers. She had done the math. They had 1,000 ships in orbit. Humanity had none. They had millions of soldiers. Humanity had less than 50,000 worldwide. There was no winning this war. There was only dying fast or dying slow. Captain said quietly, "We can still fight. We can make them pay for every step they take. We can." "We can die," said. "We can all die, and then the children in those tunnels will die too. Is that what you want?" "Of course not, but surrender, becoming slaves, is that better?" Closed her eyes, she thought about the children she had seen, their scared faces, their small hands holding onto their mothers. They deserved to live. They deserved a chance to grow up and see the sun again. She thought about something else too, something she had been planning for 6 months, a secret weapon, a desperate plan. It was almost ready. She just needed time, and the only way to get time was to do something nobody expected. "I'm going to meet him," said. Everyone stared at her. "Captain, that's suicide," said. "Maybe, maybe not," turned to her officers. "Continue the evacuation. Get everyone to safety. Whatever happens to me, keep our people alive." Used her first name. He only did that when he was truly scared. "Don't do this. Let me go instead." "It has to be me." She put her hand on his shoulder. "Trust me, I have a plan." She walked out of the command center before anyone could stop her. Her boots echoed in the empty hallway. Her heart beat fast, but her face showed nothing. Park was going to meet the monster, and she was going to kill him. She just needed a pen. The shuttle flew through the darkness of space, sat alone in the small passenger cabin. Through the window, she could see the flagship growing larger and larger. It was called the Infinite Dominion, and it was the biggest ship she had ever seen. The flagship was 20 kilometers long. Its metal skin was black like the space around it. Weapons covered every surface. Cannons that could destroy cities. Missiles that could crack planets in half. This single ship had more firepower than every human weapon ever built combined. Was not afraid. Fear was a luxury she could not afford. She wore her captain's uniform, clean and pressed. On her chest was a single medal. It was given to her after the Battle of Mars, where she saved 300 soldiers from certain death. That felt like a lifetime ago. In her pocket was a pen. It looked simple, silver metal, black ink. The kind of pen a student might use to write homework, but this pen was different. This pen was a weapon. The shuttle landed inside the flagship's docking bay. The doors opened and stepped out into an alien world. Everything was huge. The ceiling was 50 meters high. The walls were covered in strange symbols that glowed with blue light. The air smelled like metal and something else, something that reminded her of a hospital, clean, sterile, cold. 8 guards waited for her. They were giants in black armor, each one carrying weapons that hummed with energy. They looked at her like she was a bug, something small and weak and easy to crush. "Human," one of them said, "come." They led her through endless hallways. She saw other aliens working on machines and computers. Some of them stopped to stare at her. A few laughed. Others whispered to each other in their strange language. She was entertainment to them, a dying animal brought before the hunter. Memorized everything she saw, the guard positions, the doorways, the patterns on the floor. Her teacher's brain was still working, still learning even now. Finally, they reached a massive door made of gold and silver. Symbols were carved into the metal. They showed scenes of battle, aliens conquering planets, species kneeling before masters, the history of an empire built on the bones of others. The door opened. The surrender chamber was a hall of horror and beauty. The ceiling was so high she could barely see it. Pillars of crystal held up the roof. Between the pillars hung flags, hundreds of flags. Each one belonged to a species that had surrendered in this very room. Saw flags with strange colors and stranger symbols. Some were torn, some were burned, all of them were dead. The people who made them were slaves now, or worse. At the end of the chamber stood a throne made of black stone. And on that throne sat Commander. He was even more terrifying in person. His body was thick with muscle and scar tissue. His armor was fused to his skin in places. Tubes and wires ran from the armor into his flesh, connecting him to machines she could not understand. His yellow eyes watched her approach with the patience of a predator. The human commander said, his voice echoed through the chamber, "You are smaller than I expected." Stop 10 meters from the throne. She stood straight and tall, even though she barely reached his chest. "Size is not everything," she said. Laughed, it was an ugly sound. "Your species fights well for insects. You killed many of my soldiers. You destroyed 3 of my ships. For that I respect you, a little. Then why offer surrender? Why not just kill us all?" "Because dead slaves cannot work. Your species is weak, but you are clever. You build things. You solve problems. The Empire has use for such abilities." He leaned forward on his throne. "I am offering you a gift, human, life. Accept it." 2 guards stepped forward. One carried a crystal tablet with glowing text, the surrender document. The other carried a small box. He opened it and placed an object on the table beside the tablet. A pen, a human pen, silver metal, black ink. His heart jumped, but her face showed nothing. "Where did you get that?" she asked. "From one of your cities," said. "We take trophies from every world we conquer. Small things to remember the small people we have crushed. I thought it fitting that you sign your surrender with a tool of your own species." Walked to the table. She picked up the pen. It was cold in her hand. She examined it carefully, turning it over, looking at every detail. "This is a beautiful pen," she said. Made a sound of disgust. Humans, always sentimental, always finding meaning in meaningless things. Sign the document, end this foolishness. Looked at the surrender treaty. The words were in both and English. She read them slowly. "The people of Earth surrender completely to the Empire. All humans are now property of the Empire. All human technology belongs to the Empire. All human children will be raised to serve the Empire. Resistance will be punished by death." Her hand tightened on the pen. "Before I sign," she said, "I want to ask you something." Tilted his head. He was curious. No one had ever delayed their surrender before. "Speak. In all your conquests, in all the worlds you have taken, have you ever wondered why humans keep fighting, even when we are losing, even when death is certain?" "Because you are foolish," said. "Because you do not know when you are beaten, like animals that bite even as they die." "No," looked up at him. Her eyes were calm, her voice was steady. "It is because we understand something your people never learned. The smallest things can change everything. A word can start a war. A choice can save a world. A pen can kill an empire." Frowned. Something in her voice made him uneasy. "What are you saying, human?" Smiled. "I am saying that you should have searched me more carefully." She put her hand in her pocket. And the world changed forever. 6 months before the surrender, Park sat in a secret room deep under the Antarctic ice. The room had no windows. The walls were thick concrete. Only 4 people knew this place existed. Across the table sat a man who used to be a traitor. His name was. He was 40 years old with a thin face and nervous hands. 2 years ago, he had helped the. He had given them codes and locations. He had watched his own people die because of his betrayal. Then something changed. He saw children being taken from their parents. He saw families broken apart. He saw the true face of the Empire, and he could not look at himself in the mirror anymore. He escaped from a labor ship and found his way back to Earth. Many wanted to kill him for what he had done. Stopped them. She saw something useful in his guilt. "Tell me everything," said. "Tell me how they work. Tell me their weaknesses." Talked for 3 days. He told her about technology. He told her about their social structure. He told her about their religion, their fears, their pride. But the most important thing he told her was about the neural link. "The commanders are connected to their ships," he explained. His voice shook as he spoke. "There are tubes in their armor, wires in their spine. The ship's computer talks directly to their brain. They can feel the ship like it is their own body. They can control it with a thought." Leaned forward. Why would they do that? Power, speed. A normal captain gives orders with his voice. A linked commander gives orders with his mind. No delay, no mistakes. The ship becomes an extension of himself. "But there must be a weakness," said. "If the connection goes both ways." Nodded. "If something attacks the ship's systems, the commander feels it. If the attack is strong enough, it can damage his brain, kill him even." He paused. "But no one has ever gotten close enough to try. The flagships are too well protected." Sat back in her chair. Her mind was racing. A connection that went both ways. A door that could be opened from either side. If she could get something into that connection, something dangerous, something deadly. "I need to talk to," she said. Lee was the engineer had ever met. She was young, only 26, with short, messy hair and eyes that always looked tired. Before the war, she had designed medical equipment, machines that could fix broken bones, devices that could clean blood of disease. Her work had saved thousands of lives. Now she built weapons. Found her in the workshop, surrounded by broken machines and scattered tools. She explained what she had learned from the neural link, the two-way connection, the possibility. Listened without speaking. When finished, she was quiet for a long time. "A virus," finally said. "Not a computer virus, something physical, something that can travel through metal, through wires, through the connection itself." "Can you build it?" "Maybe. I would need help, medical help, someone who understands biology." They brought in Han. She was the base's chief doctor, a woman of 50 with hair and steady hands. She had performed surgery in burning buildings. She had saved soldiers whose bodies were more wound than flesh. Nothing scared her anymore. For 3 months, the three women worked in secret. They ate in the hidden room. They slept on cold floors. They barely saw the sun. But slowly, piece by piece, they built something new. They called it the Needle. The Needle was a nanovirus. It was made of millions of tiny machines, each one smaller than a grain of sand. These machines could travel through any metal. They could follow electrical signals. They could find their way through wires and tubes and connections until they reached their target. When the needle found a brain connected to a machine, it would attack. It would send a massive electrical pulse through the neural link. The pulse would destroy the commander's mind. But that was not all. The pulse would also travel backwards through the connection into the ship itself. It would crash computer systems. It would overload power cores. It would turn the mighty flagship into a floating tomb. The problem was delivery. The needle needed to touch metal to begin its journey. Someone had to get close to a commander, close enough to touch his armor. "It's impossible," said one night. They were all exhausted. "No human can get within 10 meters of a commander. The guards would kill them instantly." "Unless," said slowly, "unless the commander invited them." Understood immediately. Surrender. If someone important surrendered, the commander would want to see it himself. His ego would demand it. He would want to watch his enemy kneel before him. "But how would we deliver the virus?" asked. "They would search anyone who came aboard. They would take all weapons." Smiled for the first time in weeks. She held up a small object. It was a pen, a simple silver pen. "They would take guns, knives, explosives, but this is just a pen, a small human thing, a trophy they would never suspect." The pen was filled with special ink, ink that contained millions of needle machines. One touch of that ink to armor, and the virus would begin its work. "Who will carry it?" asked. There was silence in the room. They all knew the answer. They all knew who it had to be. "I will," said. "It has to be me." "The mission is likely suicide," said. "Even if the virus works, the guards will kill whoever delivers it." "I know." "Then why you?" Looked at her friends. her sisters in this hidden war. She thought about the children in the tunnels above them, the families waiting to be saved. "Because I am the captain," she said, "because these are my people, and because some things are worth dying for." She took the pen from his hand. It felt light. It felt ordinary. It felt like hope. "Now," said, "we wait for our chance." 6 months later, that chance came. His hand came out of her pocket holding the silver pen. Her pen, the pen that had built, the pen that carried death in its ink. Commander saw the movement. His yellow eyes narrowed. Around the chamber, guards raised their weapons. "What is that?" demanded. Held up the pen so he could see it. "Just a pen, a human pen like the one you gave me," she smiled sadly. "I wanted to use my own, I hope you understand." Relaxed, he even laughed a little. Sentimental to the end. "Fine, use your pen, sign the treaty, let us finish this." Walked slowly toward the treaty. Each step felt like a year. She could hear her own heartbeat in her ears. She could feel the eyes of every guard watching her. 20 meters from 15. 10. She stopped at the table with the crystal tablet. She looked down at the words, the death sentence for her entire species. Her hand was steady as she uncapped the pen. "I have one more question," she said. Sighed with irritation. "You talk too much, human. Ask your question and be done. Why do you conquer? Why do you take? You could trade with other species. You could work together, but instead you destroy. Why?" "Because we are strong," said. His voice was proud. "The strong take, the weak give. This is the law of the universe. Humans understand this. You conquered your own planet the same way." "Yes," admitted. "We did. We made that mistake many times, but we learned something from our mistakes. We learned that strength without wisdom is just violence. We learned that true power is not taking. True power is giving." "Pretty words," said, "but words do not win wars." "No," agreed, "they do not." She moved. Not toward the tablet, toward. In one smooth motion she threw herself at the commander's throne. The guards shouted. Weapons fired. A beam of energy burned past her shoulder, missing by centimeters, but she was already too close. Was fast for his size. He raised his massive arm to strike her down, but was faster. She ducked under his blow and drove the pen into the gap between his neck armor and his helmet. The silver tip pierced flesh. Black ink poured into the wound. The needle entered his bloodstream. Roared with rage and pain, his clawed hand caught by the throat. He lifted her off the ground like she weighed nothing. His grip was crushing. She could not breathe. "What have you done?" he snarled. Blood dripped from his neck. What was in that pen? Could not speak. Her throat was closed. Black spots danced in her vision. But she did not need to speak. The answer was already happening. The needle machines traveled through his blood. They followed his veins, his arteries, his neural pathways. They found the connection point where his spine met the ship systems. Millions of tiny machines gathered there like an army waiting to attack. Then they struck. The electrical pulse was massive. It burned through his neural link like fire through dry wood. His body convulsed. His grip on tightened, then released. She fell to the floor, gasping for air. But she was not watching anymore. She was watching the ship. The lights flickered, once, twice. Then they began to fail, section by section, like dominoes falling. Alarms screamed from every speaker. The floor shook as explosions rocked the lower decks. Through the windows of the chamber, she could see other ships in the fleet starting to spark and burn. The neural link was not just between and his flagship. It was networked, connected to other commanders, other ships, other systems. The needle spread through these connections like a plague. Where it touched, it destroyed. Fell from his throne. His body twitched and shook. Smoke rose from the joints in his armor. His yellow eyes were wide with terror as he felt his ship dying around him, as he felt his fleet tearing itself apart. "Impossible," he gasped. "You are nothing, you are insects, how?" crawled toward him. Her throat was bruised, her shoulder was burned. Blood ran down her arm from where his claws had pierced her, but she was alive, and he was dying. "We are not insects," she whispered. "We are human." Guards surrounded her, weapons pointed at her head. She did not care. She had done what she came to do. "Kill her," ordered. His voice was weak now, broken. "Kill her slowly." A guard raised his weapon, closed her eyes. She thought about the children she had saved. She was ready to die. But the weapon did not fire. A new explosion shook the ship, larger than the others. The floor tilted sharply. Guards fell, their weapons sliding across the floor. Emergency lights bathed everything in red. A voice came over the ship's speakers. It was mechanical, frightened. "Hull breach in sections 7 through 15. Power core unstable. All personnel evacuate. Repeat, all personnel evacuate." The guards looked at each other. Their commander was dying. Their ship was dying. The fleet was dying. For the first time in their lives, they felt something they had never felt before. Fear. They ran. Every guard, every soldier, every in the chamber fled toward the escape pods. They left their commander on the floor. They left beside him. They thought only of survival. Laughed. It hurt her throat, but she laughed anyway. "The strong take," she said to his dying body. "The weak give. But you forgot something, Commander. When you push the weak far enough, they stop being weak. They become something else, something you never expected." His eyes closed. His breathing stopped. Commander of 47 conquered worlds, killer of billions, defeated by a woman with a pen. Lay on the floor as the ship burned around her. She was too injured to move, too tired to try. She had accepted death when she started this mission. She was at peace with it. But somewhere above her, human ships were launching. Human soldiers were fighting. Human voices were shouting with hope for the first time in years. She had given them a chance. That was enough. Lieutenant stood in the command center and watched the impossible happen. On every screen, ships were dying. The flagship, the Infinite Dominion, was burning from the inside. Its weapons were silent. Its engines were dead. Smaller ships in the fleet were crashing into each other, their navigation systems destroyed by the same virus that killed their commanders. For a moment could not move, could not think, could not believe what his eyes were telling him. Then the moment passed. "All forces," he shouted into the communication system. "This is Lieutenant. Launch everything, every ship, every shuttle, every person who can hold a weapon. Today we take back our sky." Humanity answered. From hidden bases on Earth and Mars and the moons of Jupiter, ships launched into battle. They were small ships, old ships, ships held together with tape and hope, but they flew. In the Antarctic base, soldiers who had been waiting to die picked up their weapons and ran toward the fight. Civilians who had never fired a gun demanded to help. Children stood with their parents and watched the screens, finally daring to hope. The battle lasted 3 days. On the first day, humans attacked the crippled fleet. The virus had damaged most ships, but not all. Some still had weapons. Some still had soldiers willing to fight. The sky above Earth became a graveyard of burning metal and frozen bodies. Led from the front, he flew an old fighter that should have been in a museum. He shot down 4 enemy ships before his weapons ran dry. Then he rammed his fighter into a 5th, ejecting at the last second. He nearly died 12 times. He did not care. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw his face. He heard her voice telling him to trust her. On the second day, help came from unexpected places. Colony ships that had been hiding in the asteroid belt joined the fight. Scientist stations on distant moons sent their shuttles. Even a prison transport, filled with criminals who had nothing to lose, flew into battle against the aliens. Humanity was fighting together, all of humanity. For the first time in their history, there were no countries, no borders, no differences, just humans against the enemy, just survival. On the third day, the last ship retreated. It jumped into hyperspace, running back to the Empire with news of the disaster. The sky was clear. Earth was free. People cried, people laughed, people held each other and could not believe they were alive. In cities that had been occupied for years, humans came out of hiding and looked up at the blue sky. In colonies that had lived under alien rule, flags were raised. Human flags, the flags of a species that refused to die. But did not celebrate. He flew to the wreckage of the infinite dominion. He searched the burning corridors and shattered chambers. He called name until his voice broke. He found her in the surrender chamber. She was lying next his body, surrounded by blood and ash. Her uniform was torn. Her skin was burned. Her breathing was so shallow he almost thought she was dead. Almost. He whispered, kneeling beside her, "Can you hear me?" Her eyes opened, just barely, just enough. "Did it work?" she asked. Her voice was a broken whisper. Was crying, he did not try to hide it. "It worked. Gods, it worked. They're gone. We won." She smiled, the smallest smile, then her eyes closed again. She did not wake up for 3 weeks. 1 year later, a memorial stood in the rebuilt city of New Seoul. The city had been destroyed during the war. Now it was alive again. Buildings reached toward the sky. Children played in parks. People walked the streets without fear. At the center of the city was a garden. In the center of the garden was a statue. The statue showed a woman standing tall, holding a pen in her raised hand. At the base of the statue were words carved in stone. "The smallest things can change everything." Park stood before the statue on the day it was unveiled. She leaned on a cane now. Her injuries had been severe. Her throat was damaged forever. Her left arm did not work as well as it used to. Walking was hard. Some days breathing was hard. But she was alive. Stood beside her. He was a general now, though he hated the title. Was there too, promoted to chief engineer of Earth's new defense force. Had gone back to being a doctor, saving lives instead of planning deaths. Was there as well, finally forgiven for his past mistakes. A crowd of thousands watched the ceremony. News cameras broadcast to every human settlement in the solar system. After the speeches were over, after the songs were sung and the tears were shed, a little girl approached. She was maybe 7 years old, with big eyes full of wonder. "Excuse me," the girl said. "Are you really the woman who beat the aliens with a pen?" Looked down at her. She remembered being young. She remembered believing in heroes. She remembered thinking that one person could change the world. "I did not beat them alone," she said. Her voice was rough but gentle. "We all did, every human who fought, every human who hoped, every human who refused to give up." "But you were the one with the pen," the girl said. Smiled, she reached into her pocket and pulled out a pen. A new pen, silver metal, black ink, identical to the weapon that had saved humanity. She knelt down, ignoring the pain in her legs, and held the pen out to the girl. "Take it," she said. The girl took the pen carefully, like it was made of gold. "Why are you giving me this?" she asked. "Because you are the future, because one day you will face something difficult, something that seems impossible. And when that day comes, I want you to remember this pen. I want you to remember that small things can change everything. A word can start a revolution. A choice can save a world. A pen can defeat an empire." The girl looked at the pen in her hands. She looked at the statue. She looked at. "I will remember," she said. "I promise." Stood up slowly, helped her. They walked away from the statue together, leaving the crowd behind. "You know," said, "you could have kept that pen. It would have made a nice trophy." Laughed. It was a rough sound, but it was real. "Trophies are for the past," she said. "That girl is the future, and the future is more important than any trophy." They walked through the garden, through the city, through a world that was healing. Above them, human ships patrolled the sky. Around them, children played and laughed and dreamed of tomorrow. The Empire was still out there, somewhere among the stars. One day they might return. One day humanity might have to fight again. But today, Earth was free. Today, humanity was rising. And it had all started with a pen.